The conversation continues. We're joined by Tony Quesada, who is an editor of the San Antonio Business Journal, and Sanford Nowlin, editor-in-chief of the San Antonio Current. Sanford, in the televised portion of this, we'd really gotten into the mess that Governor Abbott and his appointed Secretary of State has gotten themselves into over this list of potential non-citizen voters. What are the concerns about this list, and why is the Secretary of State being the one who's being asked to pay the price for it?
Well, I mean, it was engineered by him, and I think there have been a lot of arguments that he played fast and loose with the data. He should have been more cautious when he put this forward, and there's certainly been a lot of rhetoric that civil rights groups point out, from Republicans in Texas, basically suggesting that voter fraud is widespread. And
even the president.
Yeah, the president tweeted on this as well. And I think there's a concern that it's part of an effort to disenfranchise voters of color, younger voters, people who are sort of part of this demographic shift against the Republican Party.
One of the things I think is playing in this is the your county officials who at the end of the day are in charge of running elections in their counties are very uncomfortable with this. They felt like we can't implement something that we don't have confidence in, and the data and the results are bearing out that they were right to not have confidence in this list. The court is now criticizing this list and the whole process.
District Judge Beery here in San Antonio has basically said we need to stop this.
Somebody said it was a solution in search of a problem, something to that effect, I think I read. So, I think a lot of it comes down to public confidence. If you don't really have confidence that the top state official in charge of elections is not above board or competent, it's going to be hard to confirm someone like that.
So is he going to be able to survive this?
Well, I mean, one of two things could happen. I mean, we could either see the vote, and like I said, if all 12 Democrats stick together and they're all in the room at the time the vote goes down, it's not looking good for Mr. Whitley. If the vote doesn't happen, if sort of procedurally they decide not to go ahead with a vote, he could basically stick around till the end of the legislative session. And then, again, it would be a rather short-lived career for Mr. Whitley.
Start again.
And then Governor Abbott would have to appoint another acting Secretary of State, who would presumably, since there's no other session until 2021, be in charge of the all-important 2020 election.
This is true.
Yeah, that would be an awkward position to be in, definitely. One other thing that is very big here in San Antonio is the fact that the last day of February is the last day of the 13 and a half years that Cheryl Scully has spent as San Antonio city manager. How do you rate her achievements? She has definitely been a transformative person for this city. What do you think that she has done is going to be of lasting significance?
Again, from the perspective of the business community and the economic development community, one is the city's credit rating and the fiscal management that she brought to City Hall, which can continue because she's leaving it in the hands of one of her chief deputies who knows her and shares her values for fiscal management. And the other is the heightened degree of participation that the city has had in pursuing economic development with regard to recruiting companies and in regard to convincing existing companies to stay and expand. So you look at how City Hall, and not necessarily her, but her people who she has put in place, have raised the city's degree of support and participation in those endeavors. They'll remember that.
Sanford, how do you rate her most significant accomplishments?
Well, I agree with you. I think she has brought a level of professionalism to city staff and to city management that we have not really seen here. And as I alluded to earlier, I mean, we were sort of a troubled period when she came in. But I think she's also managed to consolidate a lot of power, which has made people nervous, made people angry, and that's why you saw what you did in November with the propositions.
She clearly is the boss. There's no doubt about it. She has run a very strong-willed office as city manager, and sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah, well, I mean, she certainly sent a lot of San Antonio folks, born and raised, Eric Walsh being an exception, so put them to the side and recruited a lot of people from out of town. And I think there's something positive to be said about that, but I also think there's been sort of a public reaction against that.
Sanford Nowlin, editor-in-chief of the San Antonio Current, Tony Quesada, editor of the San Antonio Business Journal. Thank you both for joining us for The Conversation Continues.